Downtown Detroit, Local 4 Live starts right now.
And thank you so much for joining us for Local 4 Live. I'm Nick Monticelli. Here's what we've got on tap for the next 2 hours. New poll results from the Detroit Regional Chamber. We're diving into what Michigan voters think about tariffs, inflation, and the possibility of an independent candidate for governor. And then we're heading to Washington, where Democratic Senator Jeff Merkley from Oregon has been speaking on the Senate floor for more than 13 hours straight. And producer Mary thought I could talk long. A deep dive into the government shutdown and how it's impacting Americans. And back home here in Michigan testing rivers for microplastics and checking if they're in our drinking water. There's a summit today to share more about it. Let's get to some of your headlines here on a Wednesday morning. Starting on Detroit's east side, where an 18-year-old is now in critical condition in a hospital after being shot by police. DPD says the teen had a gun when he was shot near a McDonald's at 7 Mile and Gratiot. Priya Mann has more on where this investigation stands.
That 18-year-old was shot following a traffic stop. Let me walk you through what police say happened. That vehicle was pulled over there in the drive-through lanes of this McDonald's here on the east side. Police say that teen got combative, got out of the car, started running away, made it kitty-corner to this McDonald's. Police say they spotted a weapon. That's when an officer fired a single shot.
I can tell you that they feared for their life. He had been combative, and he produced a handgun.
The teen was shot just before 10 Tuesday night at East 7 Mile in Gratiot near this McDonald's. The chief says the gang intelligence unit pulled over a Chevy Malibu for an obscured license plate.
As you all know, we've been doing heavy traffic enforcement along Gratiot based off of the high incidence of traffic accidents.
There were 2 women in the car. We don't know their ages, along with the 18-year-old. Police say the female driver let police search the car, but say the 18-year-old got combative as they tried to get him out of the Malibu. Officers say they used a taser, but it was unclear if it was effective.
At that point, the male subject was able to break free, fled on foot, produced a handgun, which has been recovered.
Chief Medicine said one officer fired a single shot, hitting the teen in the upper body. The 18-year-old was taken to the hospital in critical condition.
My sincere prayers go out to his family, but definitely when you pull a weapon on a Detroit police officer or any officer, these are the types of things that happen.
And again, that 18-year-old was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. The 2 girls in that car, the 2 women, we don't know their ages yet, are cooperating. They stayed at the scene. Police are reviewing body camera footage. We'll continue to follow this developing story. On Detroit's east side, I'm Priya Mann, Local 4.
All right, Priya, thank you very much. Now, in less than an hour, we expect to hear from the Macomb County Sheriff's Department about an attempted murder in Macomb Township. On Sunday, deputies raided a home on Rivard Avenue in Warren and arrested a 32-year-old man connected to that attempted murder of gas station owner Eddie Jawad. We still don't know who the man arrested is or his role in the shooting. Last Tuesday, Jawad was in his SUV, as you can see here, when someone opened fire outside of his home. He was hurt, went to a hospital, but he is now okay. We're going to bring you an update as soon as it happens in about 57 minutes. It's scheduled again at 9 o'clock. Also in court today, the woman accused of injuring 9-year-old Layla after crashing her car into a house in Centerline. This happened last week at a home near 10 Mile in Van Dyke. Prosecutors say Karis Wade was driving recklessly when she hit the home. A 22-month-old was also in the home, but she wasn't hurt. Layla is still recovering from her injuries. There is a GoFundMe to help out, which we have verified. That link is on our website at clickondetroit.com. Well, today the community will say a final goodbye to Congresswoman Carolyn Cheeks Kilpatrick. Funeral services begin at noon at Greater Emmanuel Church of God in Christ on Schaefer Highway. Cheeks Kilpatrick passed away October 7th at the age of 80. She started as a public school teacher before serving 7 terms in Congress, representing Detroit from 1997 to 2011. Let's take a live look at the Senate floor in Washington right now, where Senator Jeff Merkley of Oregon has been talking for 13 and a half hours. He says he's protesting President Trump, calling out recent indictments of several of the president's political opponents and the deployment of National Guard troops to Portland. It comes as the federal government shutdown is entering a 4th week today. We're going to keep an eye on this and continue to keep you updated throughout our next 2 hours on Local 4 Live. Almost 8:05 here on Wednesday. A new poll shedding light on how Michiganders feel about the state of everything right now. The poll done by the Detroit Regional Chamber and the Glengarriff Group talked about how everything is affecting Michiganders, the economy, even how Detroiters are feeling about the mayoral race. Let's take a look at just some of the data. This was a very long document. We try to pull out some highlights here, starting with how Michigan is doing. A majority of Michigan voters believe the state is on the right track. That number stands at 51.5%, while 33.7% say it is on the wrong track. When it comes to the economy, about 59% see the economy weakening, while 38% say it is growing. And finally, about 39% of voters expect a recession to hit next year. To go over all these numbers, Sandy Baroa, the president of the Detroit Regional Chamber. Sandy, thank you so much for being here.
No, good to be here.
I'm not sure if any of the numbers were surprising or more of a reinforcement as to how many people are feeling right now. What do you think?
Well, certainly the weight of all of the policy changes are definitely impacting how people feel about their own job security, how they feel about Michigan's overall economic health. And one of the most interesting trends that we've seen, certainly during COVID, is where you stand politically and how you feel about either the president or the party in power really impacts how you view things.
Where have those trends been? What do you see?
So if you are a loyal Republican and you are a supporter of Donald Trump, you see things in a much more positive light. I'll give you an example. We've been asking for 5 or 6 years now, how well are you doing compared to a year ago? And consistently, Michiganders are saying at about 75%, hey, I'm doing as well, if not better than I was a year ago. The question is, you know, when the Democrats were in charge, when like Biden was president, more Democrats felt that way and Republicans didn't feel that way. Now that you have a Republican Congress and a Republican president, Republicans are feeling, yeah, I'm feeling great. The Democrats are like, oh, I don't feel so great.
Right.
But the overall number's the same.
Yeah. I am curious. We talked about the state of Michigan being on track. And a good majority of people say they do feel it is headed in the right direction. Was your sample the majority of Detroit residents, or did you look at the entire state?
Yeah, so we use the same pollster that Channel 4 does, the Glengarriff Group. So this is a statewide poll, and they are very diligent. I mean, you know, there's a lot of polls out there that are like internet polls or, you know.
You don't know who to
polls.
trust anymore.
Exactly right. These are very high-level scientific polls. These are actually conducted by human pollsters, actually talking to other humans who actually answer the phone, and they have a whole, you know, methodology to make sure that, you know, we've got enough people responding from the UP or West Michigan or Mid-Michigan.
What's interesting there is that when you talk to Detroiters, a lot of them feel like the city is on the right path. You know, downtown versus the neighborhoods is an entirely separate conversation, right? But then when you go outside of Detroit, some people feel like momentum has stalled. And I didn't see that in the numbers here. But maybe that's not as top of conversation as I thought it was.
Well, some of Richard's polling shows that if you go back 10, 12, 15 years and you ask Detroiters, are you interested in leaving the city?
Right.
Over 40% said, yes, I'm interested in leaving the city in X period of time.
Sure.
In this most recent poll from the Glengarriff Group, that number's into the teens now.
Right. Right. I do want to talk more about the gubernatorial race as well. Those numbers impacting that race for governor. Here's results from that poll. Voters asked if they would be interested in an independent candidate for governor. Obviously, it's a pointed question right now because current Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan is running as an independent. More than 55% are interested in voting for that independent candidate, while 23% are not. 15% say it depends. A lot of questions on this. First of all, do you think those numbers are kind of connected to the independent candidate that's running right now?
I think that's exactly right, Nick. So first of all, people have been saying forever, I mean literally for the last 25 years, that they're interested in an independent campaign for Senate, for governor, even for president, right? Gallup's most recent polling shows that that number's past 60% nationally. So why don't independent candidates win? And I can tell you why. There's two reasons. One
is money.
That's part of it. Yes, it's hard for an independent to raise money. But number one, people, you know, say, oh, theoretically, I'll vote for an independent. Now you have to put a name in the frame, and one of two things happens. One, a name gets in that frame, Sandy Brew, and they say, "Oh, I know Sandy Brew. He's a nut. I'm not voting for him," right? Or it's like, "I've never heard of Sandy Brew. I'm not voting for someone I don't know." Mike Duggan takes all of that off the table, gives him a competitive advantage. People know him, people like him, and even though he's not as well known as maybe some of the other candidates on the west side, he's closing that gap fast.
Which is a very interesting conversation, because I think all of the conversations surrounding him running for governor have been, he is a well-known name and he is a force to be reckoned with in the city of Detroit. You go to Holland, Grand Rapids, Muskegon, Traverse City, Cadillac, they know Mike Duggan, but they don't know Mike Duggan. Where do you think that falls come actual election time?
Yeah, well, first of all, he's still busy being the mayor of Michigan's largest city, right? So he's, once he's done being mayor, he's got to spend more time in other parts of the state. He knows that. I've talked to him about that. But, he's already doing meetings, on the west side of the state. He's making those connections. And some of the polling that I've seen, it's not ours, but, really credible polling, shows that, one, his name ID in the rest of the state is growing substantially. And the other thing is that he is likable. People like him. Even people who don't know him like him.
Yeah, and of course, he's not the only name in the race. We've got John James, a Republican. There's so many on the Democratic side, too. So,
Jocelyn Benson. I mean, it's a strong field.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what happens there. Okay, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about the issues in pocketbooks, tariffs, inflation, things that nobody wants to talk about, money out of my wallet. When we come back. Welcome back to Local 4 Live. A look at how Michigan voters are feeling about the state of things with a new poll from the Detroit Regional Chamber. We've talked about the race for governor here in the state, and now we're talking about something that impacts everybody, tariffs and inflation. We're going to start with the tariffs. Michigan voters again asked about how they feel about President Trump's tariffs. 51% are opposed, while 41% support them. About 8% did not have an opinion on them. Now, compared to last year, that's a whole lot. The numbers changed drastically a little bit because tariffs weren't a conversation last year. President, again, of the Detroit Regional Chamber, Sandy Brew, joining us. This is one of those partisan questions, right, where I don't know how much of the conversation is about tariffs or not, and how much of it is just about President Trump and policies. What do you think?
So it is, we're seeing across the board more and more opposition to tariffs. Obviously, Republicans much more supportive of the president's trade policies than Democrats. That's not surprising, right? But as recently as our May poll, it was about 50-50 across the state if you supported tariffs or not. Now, as you just showed, there's almost a 10-point difference of people opposing tariffs.
What's interesting is that I think that tariff conversation goes back and forth almost on a weekly basis, because you remember GM came out with their projections saying that tariffs were going to hit them hard. They came out yesterday saying that didn't hit as hard as they thought it was going to. So when you have that conversation back and forth over and over again, I don't think we're really going to understand the true effects until probably at least a year from now.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. And if you're a business owner, or if you're running a large corporation like, say, an automotive company, it's really hard to plan. It's really hard to plan your supply chain. It's really hard to make long-term investment decisions, especially when you run a capital-intensive business, if you don't know what the landscape is going to be.
Okay, let's talk about inflation here for a minute. The inflation numbers, again, voters asked if they expect inflation to get better or worse next year. According to this poll, 43% expect it to get worse, while about 28% expects it to stay the same, and 24% think it's going to get better. Any surprises in those numbers?
Not really, but that number is growing. The other thing is, and again, you hit on it earlier, is where you stand politically really impacts, kind of how you view things. The economy is really not that different today in terms of if you look at unemployment, inflation, GDP today under President Trump than it was kind of during the last quarter or so of President Biden. Now, people don't like me saying that because if you, if you're a Trump,
you're taking the arguments away.
Yes, like if you're a Trump supporter, it's like, oh my goodness, it's so much better. If you're a Biden supporter, oh, it's so much worse, right? But at the end of the day, if you look at the fundamentals, it's kind of the same. But again, if you're a Republican, you think the economy is doing a lot better today. If you're a Democrat, you think the economy is doing a lot worse. It's basically the flip of what it was, say, a year ago when Joe Biden was finishing up his presidency.
So it's funny you say that, because then we take all these numbers. In fact, we'll put the next poll up here, because you take that and apply it to the actual spending. Voters asked six different areas of spending. They asked if spending was more. 76% of voters said they were spending more on groceries compared to last year. 68% say they are paying more for utilities like electricity, internet, and phone service. And 60% saying they are paying more for their car and home insurance. Those are high numbers, right? Not a surprise there, because we know inflation has gone up. But again, back to the conversation, is the economy better or worse? It depends on which side of the aisle you ask. But when you have those numbers, how do you have that partisan conversation now?
So inflation for the last year has been pretty moderate. Right now, obviously, kind of halfway through Joe Biden's presidency, we had terrible inflation of 9% plus. That was a real killer, especially for working families. But when you see these numbers, yeah, I mean, they're kind of eye-opening numbers. I take them with a little grain of salt, because some of certainly grocery prices have continued to go up. Some of the other utility prices, it's been kind of normal, regular inflation. Nothing shocking.
Yeah, although we have seen a lot of the public utilities raising their rates as well. I wanted to ask you, from a chamber perspective, what do these numbers do for you? How can you take this and then turn it into something tangible?
Yeah, the reason we do so much polling is primarily for, obviously we're a business organization, and we work with business leaders. It's important for business leaders across the state, and particularly in the Detroit region, to really understand what are their customers, their employees, what are they thinking, what are they feeling, so they can kind of, we can help them plan a little bit, in terms of what to prepare for, in terms of where the economy might be going.
It's funny. Every time we have a poll, the conversation almost always goes to politics, right? But in reality, these numbers are for your business members to help them drive what their business should look like. So it doesn't have to be political, but everything is.
Well, we do some political polling.
Yeah, right. Sandy, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate you here on a Wednesday. We're going to take a short break here. When we come back, another rainy, gloomy fall day here in Metro Detroit. Ashley is in to talk about how long the rain will stick around. Welcome back to Local 4 Live, everybody. A live look at producer Mary's favorite spot, Mackinac Island. People are still heading to the island, but next week everything's going to be kind of shut down for the
That's so sad.
It's one of the, yeah, exactly. Thank you, Mike. It's one of those things where, they shut down for the winter, but Mackinac Island, I would imagine, is probably beautiful during the winter.
I'm
All the
sure.
snow.
Some of the snow, yeah.
Right?
Picturesque.
The horses might have a hard time getting around, though.
Well, that's true. And yeah, you don't necessarily want to be on a ferry ride when it's, 30 degrees out there. But, I was thinking, so I was looking out my window the other day because we have some spectacular color on the trees right now. And it's my favorite time of year, the view outside of our house.
You're a fall girl, aren't you? Like, this is your favorite?
Fall's my favorite.
Yeah.
But I was thinking in my head, there are some snows that are competitive to that view when they stick on the trees, like just to see that is so beautiful.
I don't want to think about that just yet.
We
got to get through today, which is like rain and cold and wind and just everything.
Yeah, I just checked in with my daughter before school and she's like, it's yucky today. Like, there you go.
That's
all
be
you
your
need to know.
graphic.
Back
It's
to you.
yucky.
It's yucky. That's what the 3-year-old said. Yes, it is, girl. All right, so here's your weather story. Grab the umbrella and the rain boots because we're in and out of those rain showers throughout the day. And you want to check your trash can if today's trash day because it's going to be pretty windy, or those outdoor decorations. So those spiders, the inflatable pumpkins, the skeletons, all of those could be kind of blowing around out there. Cooler though, so it's not just wet. We will be cooler by about 10 degrees compared to yesterday. So sweatshirts, jackets, absolutely needed for today. Just not a great outdoor day. It's that low pressure system to our northeast creating all the activity for us. And we have all of that rain kind of wrapping counterclockwise around the low. So you can see how it's pushing in from the northwest to the southeast. It has to do with where that low pressure system is placed. So the farther east it goes, then we start to move this out, but it's going to take some time. So rain's in the forecast throughout the day. Here's a look at Exact Track 4D, just time-lapsing the last hour, where it's been widespread along and north of I-94 all morning long. Not super heavy, but it's inconvenient, especially as you're driving. So 52 degrees for the afternoon high, with the rain chances throughout the day kind of turning a little more scattered by the afternoon, but they're sticking with us. In fact, through the afternoon, I do think that we will have a couple more heavy downpours that develop. And so let me show you what I'm talking about here with our model data. So it doesn't look like it's quite as widespread, but it could be heavier in pockets by the time we get to about 3:30 or so. And then it rolls out of here. We will have some drier conditions building in tonight. It's not completely dry as we have a few isolated chances early tomorrow before we really do welcome back some sunshine and drier conditions Friday into the weekend. Today's winds, well, you can see those wind gusts will be around 30 miles per hour. And so, I mean, it could be one of those days you're using the umbrella and then boom, it's inside out because those winds are pretty gusty. And so just not the best combination, especially when you pair it with even cooler air. 52 for the high today puts us below average, but we do get into more seasonal territory by the time we get into the later part of the weekend. All right, 9 days until Halloween. So how's it looking? Well, I think temperature-wise right now, models are indicating we'll be pretty seasonal in the 50s. And so we'll be fine-tuning that, but that's kind of a look at what's going to happen by next Friday. Now the rain. Long-range data does pull a little moisture into the region come late Friday, but I think that as of right now...
You're being very careful with this.
Yeah, as of right now, it looks like it doesn't arrive until we get well past sunset, past trick-or-treating time. And so, we're going every day. I'm going to be looking at this thing and fixing it up for you. So we'll be in the 50s all the way through the weekend, about 60 early next week. But we start a drier pattern on Friday.
I love that. I am curious, your 3-year-old. Does she think that it's your fault when there's a bad day, or does she understand that Mother Nature is bigger than you are?
Well, there was a little while that they would tell my mom makes the weather. My mom had to be like, kids, no, she doesn't make the weather. She just reports the weather. Now I think they understand it a little bit more. But yeah, my daughter will joke I checked what the weather was going to be.
Right.
Like, oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can just see her going to school and saying, it's raining and it's my mom's fault.
Right. She would. She's my spicy one. She's the spicy one. Yeah.
Awesome. Actually, thank you. Well, are you ready for some Detroit basketball? I had to. A live look at Chicago. The Pistons are back in action tonight. Next, what head coach J.B. Bickerstaff is saying about this new season. Good morning, everybody. I'm Nick Monticelli with the Local 4 update. Warren police are investigating a smash and grab at a liquor store. This is video from that scene at Galaxy Market on Stevens west of Hayes. Police say that 3 people crashed a car into the store, then stole lottery tickets. So far, there's been no arrest. We're going to update you throughout the day. And here's what we've got working on the streaming side over on Local 4 Plus. Before the Pistons play tonight, you're going to hear from head coach J.B. Bickerstaff about how the team is getting ready to open a new season. Plus, we're going through the results of our new poll for the Detroit mayoral race and how election night may not have many surprises. Also, raising a kid is not the same as it used to be with cell phones and social media. We're chatting with the author of a new book that is navigating how to be a parent and maybe putting them outside a little more. Ashley is also looking at your forecast as you look over at Belle Isle. There, rainy and windy and cold for today, but she's also talking about Halloween.
From downtown Detroit, Local 4 Live starts right now.
And welcome back to Local 4 Live. I'm Nick Monticelli. Thank you for joining us here on your Wednesday. Let's take a live look at Chicago right now, where in less than 12 hours, Detroit basketball is going to be back in action. The Pistons taking on the Bulls to kick off the new season. The Pistons are looking to improve after making it back to the playoffs last season. Last week, Pistons head coach J.B. Bickerstaff and the president of basketball operations, Trajan Landon, spoke to the Detroit Economic Club and discussed what this year is going to look like.
You know, the Pistons have one of the best players in the NBA now in Cade Cunningham. We're all excited about what lies ahead for him. I will give you both the opportunity to talk about Cade. Trajan, I know you've challenged him in the offseason to not settle and to build upon his All-NBA third-team selection this year. And judging from what I've been able to see in the preseason, he's done that. And he's making things look too easy out there. I know they're not as easy as he's making them. But talk about Cade, his progress, and how proud you are of him.
Yeah, to be clear, JB and I both really challenged him this summer to take a step. And the only thing I asked Cade is, you know, you're going to work on your game, you're going to get stronger, but, you know, the season we hope will be longer. So get in elite shape. And guys are going to now be coming after you now. You're now going to be the hunted instead of the hunter. And I think he's going to revel in that. And I think he wants to take the next step as a leader of this organization, of this franchise going forward. He takes a lot of pride in that. But he is a high character young man, highly competitive, soft spoken, but highly competitive. Wants to be great. Wants to lead the Pistons back to the promised land where they were before. Yeah, he's got a lot of responsibility on his shoulders, but I think he's ready for it. His teammates love him. He comes to work every day, and we're glad he's a Piston, that's for sure, because I know that those guys on the other side, that he's a load to guard. Like you said, he makes the game look easy at times, but I think he's done a great job to prepare himself to have a great season.
Coach, is he one of the best players you've ever coached?
Yeah, for sure. You know, not only you have superstar players, right? And then you have superstar player character that are culture setters also. And Cade is one of those guys. You know, I don't say this lightly, but I put him in the level of the Tim Duncans and the Steph Currys. The way that, you know, they carried the culture of their organization and brought other people along with him. And that's one of my favorite things about Cade is Cade doesn't need to take food off your plate to get full, right? He can continue to serve others, but then grow himself. You know, the way he interacts with his teammates, you watch how his teammates, like, they want to play for him. You know, they know how to protect him on the floor and all those things, and that's because of the type of person he is. You know, and credit to his parents for raising him the way that they did, but they raised an outstanding young man and a hell of a basketball player.
To you both. So, I'm not asking you for a number of wins, because I already know you're not going to answer it. But I can ask, where do we go from here?
That's a great question. I can give you the political answer. It's just we're going to be better in January than we are now, and we hope to be better in April than we are in January. But I think, as JB alluded to, is we want our young core to continue to get better. And that's what we're going to focus on, is the process of them coming to work every day and us pouring into them in the weight room, in the performance, in medical, on the court, recovery, and just trying to guide them to be the best possible players that they can be. And they've been great in terms of coming in and getting the work. But there's a process that we go about every day. And for us, hopefully that equates to all these guys reaching their potential while they're members of the Detroit Pistons. And I think if our young core can do that, we have a chance to be competitors in the Eastern Conference for a long time. And that's important to us. And what's important at the end of the day, too, is keeping these guys healthy and on the floor. And JB and I talk about that all the time, is how do we manage our guys. But we're going to push them. They want to be pushed. They feel that there's an opportunity in the Eastern Conference this season. They've talked about it internally. We don't talk about it as an organization, but you can feel that they feel that. And you could see it in the work that they put in this summer, on the intentionality of that work. They were calling all of our staff members, whether they're coaches or performance members, medical members, to fly out, spend 2-3 days a week with them, to work with them. We're getting reports on that. JB and I are talking about, man, these guys they're going to get it, and they were going to get it all summer, individually, small groups, as a team. So that's what's been exciting, and I think that's what lends us to be ready to go, and especially from a continuity standpoint. They know what to expect from JB and staff, and you know, we're excited for that. But again, these guys can continue to just get better internally. I think the sky's the limit for them.
Coach, I'll let you address your fans with the last word in the 30 short minutes we have left. That made such a 10. Okay, oh, we got 10 minutes. Okay, well, we'll talk to your fans.
Well, fans. No, it's, again, for me, we do focus on the process. When you start to bring in, you know, the numbers and those types of things, it just becomes noise and distractions. And if things don't go the way you want them to go, it makes everything else feel heavier. So, again, we have and will just lean into the process. And I know that sounds like coach speak, but I apologize, but that's what it is, because that's what's important to us. You know, there was a decision made this summer because we believed in the guys that we had very easily. Like, we had some guys play well. There's other teams that want them. We could have made some sort of a move to bring in, you know, an older veteran player or whatever. But there's a belief in our building and the guys that we have. And it's our responsibility, like Trajan said, to give them everything that we have and help them reach their potential. And to be honest with you, the way that they played last year, the way that they worked, the way that they committed themselves to each other, they deserve that. They deserve a chance together to see how good they can actually grow to be. And then it's all of our responsibility to give them everything that they need, right? We have to be able to give them our time. We have to be willing to be on the floor with them, come back in the gym late at night with them, you know, in the weight room performance. They have everything you could possibly imagine, nutrition, all that stuff, in order to help them get to where we believe they can be. But there's belief in this group that they can.
You can watch that entire conversation over on clickondetroit.com and also here on Local 4 Plus and on our YouTube page. Well, 3 weeks down and no end in sight. A live look at the Capitol right now. Coming up next, the ongoing fights to open the government back up and how federal workers are dealing with 3 weeks without a paycheck. Welcome back, everybody. Let's get to the fight in Washington over the budget. Last night, Democratic Senator Jeff Merkley of Oregon launched an all-night speech on the Senate floor. You can see him right there to, as he says, protest the president's threats to democracy. He's still speaking right now. He's on hour 14. Let's listen to him for a little bit.
Situation has no parallel in American history, as Mr. Trump, a presidential candidate, was pursued by federal law enforcement and eventually won the election, taking over the very government that must now review his claims. It is also the starkest example yet of potential ethical conflicts created by installing the president's former lawyers atop the Justice Department. Lawyers get to play both sides. They were on his team that brought the lawsuits, and now they're on the team for the Justice Department that would agree to pay him. Well, obviously, that's an unacceptable conflict of interest. And in any ordinary world, you would expect anyone associated with this case to say, absolutely not, my integrity will be profoundly compromised if I come anywhere near this. But that type of integrity and that type of clarity about the importance of avoiding conflicts of interest so that fairness is embodied.
So you can hear Senator Merkley there talking about President Trump suing the Justice Department. Again, those are his words. We don't have any opportunity to get Republican thoughts on this. That's happening live in front of us. We will monitor his speech throughout the day, though, and let you know what happens and what the GOP response might be. Also, we'll look outside the U.S. Capitol. The senator's speech comes as frustration mounts on the ongoing government shutdown. The Senate is expected to vote again today, but there appears to be no end in sight to this shutdown. The political battle is intensifying as political leaders hit back at one another.
It's Groundhog Day. you know, and I'm just saying, and it's not entertaining. That's a great movie, but this is and now it's like now real damage is going to are now touching the lives of regular Americans, and we all lose.
And I want to just say from the beginning, our message has been very simple. We will not be extorted on this crazy plot of theirs. They've never done this before. Nobody has. You always vote for an extension. Chuck Schumer and the Senate Democrats need to vote for the clean, bipartisan CR and reopen our government. It's got to be reopened right now.
The damage already hitting the airports. A live look at Metro Airport right now. Airports across our country are seeing air traffic control shortages, TSA staffing issues, flight delays nationwide, and it's only a matter of time before workers just walk off the job because they are not getting paid. The impact, of course, reaching airports. Federal workers are turning to food banks to get some help, including one Maryland food bank that is serving more than 370 families, which is double what they expect.
You know, with my rent due next week, I could take anything I can get. At this point, I haven't gotten a paycheck this month. So the free groceries is very important, very helpful.
I've been furloughed before. I've never seen it like this, where, you know, people actually had to go to a food bank. Normally it's maybe a week or two or a day or two or whatever for furlough, but not like this, where there's nothing coming in.
And the roughly 230
Well, as you can see, Senator Merkley still speaking. We're going to follow, as we said, that speech throughout the day. Senate Republicans say Merkley is forcing Senate staff and Capitol Police to work overnight while not getting paid because of the shutdown. Back in March, Senator Cory Booker held what was the longest speech on the Senate floor at 25 hours. Well, heading over to the White House, where President Trump is set to meet with NATO Secretary as Europe and the U.S. work to end the war in Ukraine. This meeting follows last week's talk between Trump and Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, where they discussed the possibility of the U.S. providing Ukraine with Tomahawk missiles. But after the meeting, Zelensky said Ukraine will not be getting those long-range missiles. Also, plans for a Trump summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin have been scrapped. Here's what the president had to say.
No, I don't want to have a wasted meeting. I don't want to have a waste of time, so I'll see what happens. But we did all of these great deals, great peace deals. They're all peace deals. They're agreements, solid agreements, every one of them. But this one, and I said, go to the line of battle, the battlefield lines, and you pull back and you go home, and everybody take some time off, because you got two countries that are killing each other. You got two countries that are losing 5,000 to 7,000 soldiers a week. So we'll see what happens. We haven't made a determination.
Today, the NATO Observer Group is considering a bill to impose new sanctions on Russia. Over to Paris, where the Louvre is open again after 3 days after a daring heist where thieves stole France's crown jewels worth $102 million. Tourists are already lining up and entering the museum, which has boosted security to prevent anything like this from happening again. The museum director faces tough questions from the French Senate's Culture Committee as the incident sparks a big debate about security at France's most important cultural sites. Well, here in much of Detroit, it's going to be a bit breezy outside, but it's nothing compared to what we saw on Lake Michigan this week. Next, a video giving us a look at how Michigan sees big waves when we come back. Welcome back, everybody. A live look at Lake Michigan this morning. If you get seasick, maybe just turn away for a second here, because this is video of the Cook Power Plant buoy that is near Lake Michigan, near Stevensville. This is close to St. Joseph in the southwest part of the state. The buoy capturing what it looks like, I should say, on Lake Michigan with 17-foot waves. On Monday, winds picked up to 30 miles an hour on the lake with gusts over 40 miles an hour, creating those 17-foot waves. Can you imagine just being a tiny little boat out there? No, thank you.
Yeah, that does make my stomach feel a certain way.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I kind of feel like the winds are not as bad, but we got some windy stuff going on today.
Well, you're exactly right. So the wind gusts, as far as widespread wind gusts, are similar to yesterday, but we had those pockets of storms that developed that produced upward of 40 to 50 mile per hour gusts yesterday.
Right.
We're not going to have that today as much as we do still have just really breezy conditions, brisk.
It's still umbrella flippy upside down kind of weather.
Yeah, I saw a couple parents that pick up at school yesterday that their umbrellas were upside down. And I was like, oh man, that's the worst. But yeah, that's what we're dealing with today. You're dodging the rain and the wind, and it's hard to get away from. So 40-degree temperatures to start the day as you're waking up, mid-40s, or stepping outside. If you've been up for a while, here's the rain. Well, it hasn't gone anywhere really. I mean, it is pushing west to east, but it's just been so steady. Just a steady stream of moisture that continues to cross the area. Satellite radar showing that the low pressure system is pushing eastward, but behind it's just all that moisture. So it has to push pretty far east for us to then get all of the rain that's behind the low to get out of here. So it's going to be a rainy day, not just a rainy morning, but a rainy day. Out the door forecast, some off and on showers will persist outside of the more widespread band, possibly even in the early part of your Thursday before we begin to dry things out Friday into the weekend. Now, as far as that wind, we mentioned brisk, breezy, gusts 20 to 30 miles per hour. I would say if it is trash day, you might see a lid or two maybe kind of on the ground, or more so those Halloween decorations. And so you have some of those cute little ghosts hanging from the tree. One might go flying. That would be something, right? Cooler
That's not cute anymore. Now it's just terrifying.
Now it's creepy. Cooler 50s today for highs, and we're going to hold on to those 50s for a while. So hourly forecast today. We get to about 50 around the lunch hour, but then we only top out at 52. So we're not even rising 10 degrees as the day rolls on. That does put us below average. Rain chances pretty steadily all the way through at least the dinner hour, becoming a little more isolated once we get past sunset. And here's an hour by hour look at what's going on. So we have more of that widespread rain throughout the later part of the morning. And then we get, I would call it more scattered, but possibly a little heavier in those pockets by 3:30, 4 o'clock. And then after midnight is when we really start to see a bit more clearing as far as the rain, but the clouds stick around and there's still some remnant moisture, so I won't rule out an isolated shower come Thursday. Today's winds, though, 20 to 30 mile per hour gusts, but sustained winds are still noticeable, 15 to 20 mile per hour sustained winds. And so we are trending cooler than average today, tomorrow, and then starting to inch into more seasonal territory by the weekend. But the overnight lows taking a dip below average as well. Friday, Saturday, overnight lows falling into the mid-30s, getting oh so close to that freezing mark. So it is worth mentioning that our first freeze, as far as the climatology goes, that minimum temperature of 32 degrees or less usually falls around October 25th as far as the season's first freeze. And so we're getting close to that. Latest, though, was in November, and that was last year. So as we look ahead to this Saturday, if you're heading to East Lansing for the big rivalry game, it's going to be a cool one, but dry. Some increasing clouds by game's end, but 50s for tailgating, let me get that out there, and then 40s for the game time. And so you want the extra layer. But there's the 50s all the way through Sunday, though we flirt with 60 for the tail end of the weekend. Low 60s early next week with another chance for rain arriving the following Tuesday. But, you know, it's fall. It's fall, y'all.
It's fall, y'all. What about 10:31?
10:31.
Halloween.
Oh, 10, like, I thought you were talking about the time. Like 10:31, I was like, where? You want to know exactly?
Yeah. No.
I want a minute-by-minute forecast.
Halloween.
So for Halloween, right now, it looks like it's dry with a little bit of rain to our north, and 50s would be the high. So pretty seasonal day. We just need to make sure we keep that rain up north and not in southeastern
right. So right now it's coming after trick-or-treating.
After trick-or-treating, yeah. But I mean, we're 9 days out, so the timeline of that absolutely
cross my fingers.
Fluctuate. But I'm checking every day because I'm a mom too. I got trick-or-treaters. I want to know how to prepare for it.
You don't want to be all wet when you're out there walking around.
Exactly.
All right, thanks, Ashley. We are learning more about what is in our waters. A live look at the Detroit River this morning. How you can have a chance to learn about a small and dangerous hazard today. That's coming up next. Welcome back, everybody. A live look right now at the Thornapple River near Grand Rapids. And this week, the state is focusing on microplastics awareness. So what does that mean? Well, microplastics are tiny plastic particles found in our lakes, rivers, drinking water, even the air. They can harm wildlife and affect our health. Here in Michigan, the state is starting to keep a close eye on microplastic pollution. Eagle is taking samples from rivers and streams to check for these tiny plastic pieces. It is a $2 million 4-year project that's going to cover about 200 waterways. They've already started testing and they are already finding microplastics. Last month, I spoke to one of the folks from Eagle. She's an environmental quality analyst with the department. Here's part of that conversation.
Microplastics are problematic for, a variety of reasons. So they come from a lot of things. So they can come from your clothes, they can come from vehicle tires, they can fragment from larger plastic items like you were talking about earlier. And they're not known to break down very quickly in the environment. So they just keep getting smaller and smaller. And they're really widespread throughout the environment and our everyday lives. So, current research is showing that microplastics can have effects on organisms in the environment. And, we know it's in humans, it's in our bodies. But, more research needs to be done on, how that exactly affects our health. But, some research has shown that, in organisms, it can cause, cellular damage and, they can mistake the plastic particles for food. So that can become a nutritional issue too. So there are various things like that we're starting to understand. But yeah, more information we need to get a little more information on, human health impacts.
So it sounds like there's really nothing that can be done in terms of preventing them because they're everywhere, as you say. But I am surprised to hear that they could be in our drinking water because I thought that was a heavily filtered process. But are they just that small where they can kind of get through everything?
Sure. Yeah, there are microplastics that get really, really small, and then there's a thing called nanoplastics as well that get even smaller than microplastics that they can get through certain filtration processes and eventually end up in drinking water and bottled water and things like that. So yeah, it is a very pervasive problem.
Gotcha. Okay, so it seems like, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, that this is one of those things that has been around for so long that it's maybe not a new problem, but now we're just starting to understand more about it.
Yeah, we're certainly starting to understand a little more about it and a little more about the impacts it can have on health of organisms and humans and things like that. But yeah, it's plastic production and the production of microplastics has been going on for a while now, and we're starting to see the effects of the accumulation of these plastics across the environment.
So with something so tiny, is there anything that can be done to prevent what's happening, or is it more on a regulation side?
Sure. Yeah, I think one of the main things that can be done, from a public perspective, like one of the best ways to tackle this issue is just to frankly, just reduce the consumption of plastic materials, through substituting plastic products for reusable alternatives. So preventing, those plastics from, getting into the environment and then breaking down will help, prevent the microplastics from accumulating in the future.
Well, today a summit is taking place and goes until 5:30. It's a virtual summit and it's free to attend. You can learn all about where microplastics go, how we can detect them, and the real-world challenges. You can go to the Eagle website and register, log on, and just watch it for free. Well, stick around. We have a whole new hour of news and weather ahead for you. The next few minutes, we're going to take you live to Macomb County, where we are expecting an update on the shooting of a gas station owner. He was shot in his own driveway in broad daylight. And then we're going to tell you what was just banned from all of Detroit's sporting venues. It's got some people talking, and we are seeing a new trend in parenting, why millennials are throwing it back to the 90s when it comes to raising their kids. More news, more weather in our next hour. Stay with us here on Local 4 Live.
From downtown Detroit, Local 4 Live starts right now.
And welcome to Local 4 Live as you take a live look inside the Macomb County Sheriff's Department. A press conference is happening with the Macomb County Sheriff and the county prosecutor to give us an update on the shooting of a businessman. Gas station owner Eddie Jawad was shot in the driveway of his Macomb Township mansion last week. You're looking at video of a raid in Warren where police found the suspect a few days later. But we don't know the identity of this suspect just yet. We are expecting to learn that during this press conference, which is supposed to start any hour. What you're looking at right now, a surveillance video from Eddie Jawad's home over on 24 Mile Road. You can see he was driving away from the shooter as the shooter kept firing shots at that black SUV, but you can see the shooter there was hiding in between the vehicles waiting for Jawad to get home. So again, the press conference is supposed to start at any moment now. The moment it does start, we're going to take it to you live. But in the meantime, welcome back to Local 4 Live. I'm Nick Monticelli. Let's take a look at what else we're working on for you in this show here. An umbrella is needed today, a rain jacket as well. You can see from radar on the top of your screen there, it's going to be a rainy day throughout much of the day. Tomorrow, though, is a little bit better. Meteorologist Ashley Barrissey is tracking those showers. Also, we're going to take you back out to the floor of the U.S. Senate, where a Democratic senator is going on hour 15 now of speaking, the point he's trying to make in this marathon speech. And then a new trend in parenting for millennials, why they are throwing it back to the 90s when it comes to raising their kids. Let's look at some of your headlines on this Wednesday morning, starting on Detroit's east side, where an 18-year-old is in critical condition at a hospital after being shot by Detroit police. Police say the teen had a gun when he was shot near this McDonald's at 7 and Gratiot. Priya Mann has more on this investigation and where it stands.
That 18-year-old was shot following a traffic stop. Let me walk you through what police say happened. That vehicle was pulled over there in the drive-through lanes of this McDonald's here on the east side. Police say that teen got combative, got out of the car, started running away, made it kitty-corner to this McDonald's. Police say they spotted a weapon. That's when an officer fired a single shot.
I can tell you that they feared for their life. He had been combative, and he produced a handgun.
The teen was shot just before 10 Tuesday night at East 7 Mile in Gratiot near this McDonald's. The chief says the gang intelligence unit pulled over a Chevy Malibu for an obscured license plate.
As you all know, we've been doing heavy traffic enforcement along Gratiot based off of the high incidence of traffic accidents.
There were two women in the car. We don't know their ages, along with the 18-year-old. Police say the female driver let police search the car, but say the 18-year-old got combative as they tried to get him out of the Malibu. Officers say they used a taser, but it was unclear if it was effective.
At that point, the male subject was able to break free, fled on foot, produced a handgun, which has been recovered.
Chief Medicine said one officer fired a single shot, hitting the teen in the upper body. The 18-year-old was taken to the hospital in critical condition.
My sincere prayers go out to his family, but definitely when you pull a weapon on a Detroit police officer or any officer, these are the types of things that happen.
And again, that 18-year-old was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. The two girls in that car, the two women, we don't know their ages yet, are cooperating. They stayed at the scene. Police are reviewing body camera footage. We'll continue to follow this developing story. On Detroit's east side, I'm Priya Mann, Local 4.
Priya, thank you much. A 20-year-old woman is in court today after being accused of crashing her car into a centerline home and hurting a 9-year-old girl. This happened on October 13th near 10 in Van Dyke. Prosecutors say Karis Wade was driving recklessly when she slammed into the house. The 9-year-old is now recovering, and a verified GoFundMe has been set up to support their family. That link is on our website at clickondetroit.com. In other news now, today the community will gather to say final farewell to a trailblazing politician, Congresswoman Carolyn Cheeks Kilpatrick. Funeral services are being held at the Greater Emmanuel Church of God in Christ over on Schaefer Highway, with the family hour at 11 o'clock and the funeral at noon. Cheeks Kilpatrick passed away October 7th at the age of 80. After a career as a public school teacher, she turned to politics, eventually serving 7 terms in Congress, representing Detroit and Washington from 1997 until 2011. The Detroit City Council has a new message for fans. Leave your tobacco at home. Yesterday, the City Council passed a brand new law banning any form of tobacco inside of Detroit sports venues. The exact language of the vote: to prohibit use of smokeless tobacco products and event sites for professional sports in the city of Detroit. They say the purpose is to, quote, encourage preservation, protection, and promotion of the public peace, health, and safety of City of Detroit residents. So here's what's now against the law: smokeless tobacco, dips, chews, pouches, etc. Alternative nicotine products, which are any non-combustible product containing nicotine. And smoking, by the way, already banned, and vapes and e-cigs are banned by the venues, but not by law. If you get caught, here's the penalties. The first time, you're going to get a warning. After that first warning, your first offense becomes $100, with the additional offenses $500 after that. Now, because it was approved by more than a 2/3 majority with City Council, the law goes into effect immediately. Tobacco obviously is associated more with baseball than any other sport. There's been a big push in Major League Baseball to ban nicotine pouches, trying to end that association between the game and the players. This ban applies to the players too. Well, new polling is suggesting there may be very little suspense on election night here in Detroit. After a dominant primary win, Mary Sheffield appears to be widening her lead in our exclusive WDIV Detroit News poll. Many political insiders have believed this race could be lopsided, and now the numbers seem to back that up. But first, that press conference over in the Macomb County Sheriff's Department is getting underway. Let's listen in.
Charges on that individual. The information I put out is probably the only information that you're going to get. We'll allow you to ask questions, but there is some information that we're not going to release, reference investigative techniques, any type of witnesses, or those type of things. We will identify the suspect that we have in custody. Mr. Lucido will talk about charges that his office has authorized on this individual, and he will be arraigned today at 1 p.m. in the 41A District Court in Shelby Township. So, just by way of a recap, we know that this incident happened on the 14th of October at Mr. Jawad's home on 24 Mile. Video surveillance cameras have the subject arriving on Wellington Valley Drive in a black Ford vehicle around 8:22 a.m. At approximately 9:30 a.m., we have the individual going through a backyard, climbing the wall to get onto Mr. Jawad's property. At 10:18 a.m., the victim, Mr. Jawad, exits his garage and his SUV, proceeds down his driveway when the suspect comes out between a couple cars and fires shots at Mr. Jawad while he is in his vehicle. Our investigators have determined that approximately 7 shots were fired at him with a 9mm handgun. Following the shooting, the suspect returned to his vehicle, which was parked on Wellington Valley Drive, and fled eastbound on 24 Mile, per witness accounts. As you already know, Mr. Jawad was grazed in the right leg and the bullet struck his left leg. He also suffered wounds from broken glass from the shooting. Over the next 5 days, our investigators worked tirelessly. They worked 24 hours a day to try and find the individual responsible for this shooting. They executed 23 search warrants. They collaborated with our detectives, our sheriff's enforcement team, our computer crimes team, as you've seen, our SWAT team on the arrest. We worked with Warren PD, East Point PD, and the FBI Violent Crimes and Gang Task Force. This was a total effort of law enforcement at every level to get this individual in custody. How did we come upon this guy that we have arrested? The day of the shooting, and based on the camera footage, we were able to identify the vehicle in question, a black Ford Escape, which we were determined via cameras had a stolen plate affixed to it. Investigators followed up on the plate as it came back to a Cadillac in the city of Detroit, and we were able to rule out that individual that he had no involvement in it and that his plate was stolen. Following the shooting, detectives tracked the Ford Escape using various traffic cameras from the area of North Avenue and 21 Mile Road to the area of 7 Mile and Kelly immediately after the shooting. During the investigation and reviewing several days of camera footage, detectives found a potential match to a vehicle near the area of 8 Mile and Gratiot a few hours after the incident, which had a proper plate on it. The vehicle had specific and consistent markings on it and locations that were not common. We were able to identify brake dust on the wheel well, smudges that were on the vehicle, and bird poop that was on the vehicle. The further investigation revealed that the suspect, excuse me 1 second. So further investigation revealed that the suspect had borrowed the Ford Escape during the time of the shooting. Oh, wait a minute, I apologize. It's a long story. I want to make sure I get it right. Yeah, all right. Here we go. The registered owner of the 2020 Ford Escape fit within the height and weight parameters of the suspect based on measurements taken at the scene. Results from a search warrant on the Ford's Escape's Ford Global Security Vehicle Tracking System has it parked at the owner's residence in the city of East Point prior to the shooting, and also having it parked on Wellington Valley in the same area confirmed by witnesses at the time of the shooting. On 10/17, we executed a search warrant in the city of East Point and brought in a suspect for questioning. During that investigation and questioning, it was revealed that the suspect had borrowed the Ford Escape during the time of the shooting. From the 17th till the 19th, to the day we took the individual into custody, detectives were working tirelessly trying to find this individual. We were able to find him residing in the city of Warren on Rivard Street, where a search warrant was executed and the suspect was taken into custody. And these were the facts that we did present to the prosecutor's office. We do have witness accounts of the shooting. We have statements from the suspect about a stolen plate and his involvement in the shooting. We have video footage of a suspect dumping a duffel bag at a gas station in the city of Detroit. During our search for the suspect, he continually turned his phone on and off to avoid detection. This investigation is still continuing, and we will keep working to determine any and all persons involved in the shooting and try to find a motive for this attack. The arrested individual's name is Jason Delante Martin. He's 32 years of age, from East Point. At this point, I'll let Prosecutor Lucido talk a little bit more about the suspect and the charges his office has issued.
Thank you, Sheriff. Good morning, everybody, and let me move this microphone where it's supposed to be. Yeah. As the Sheriff has indicated, we had reviewed yesterday a complete package of information that was brought and tendered. At that time, all the investigative material was reviewed by the Major Crimes Unit, and Jason Martin, 32 years old, was charged with the following counts. Total of 6: assault with intent to commit murder, life offense; possession of a weapon by a prohibited person. That prohibited person is Jason Martin. Also, possession of a weapon or carrying with an unlawful intent, and that's a 5-year felony, as well as the possession of a weapon by a prohibited person. Felony firearm, 3 counts because of the 3 separate charges. This is an individual that's on parole out of Ohio, transferred here to Michigan, and as such, it's a HAB 4, which is habitual for up to a life offense. In addition, he's on parole for armed robbery, kidnapping, and assault with a dangerous weapon, and probably will have a parole hold, if not already in place, will be in place by the time of his arraignment today. Those are the charges, and we look forward to being a minister of justice to see that justice is served in this case. That's about it.
Thank you. Again, I just want to echo and thank my team. From the time this incident occurred to the time we took Mr. Martin into custody, they didn't stop. They followed every lead, did numerous interviews, and never went home and kept working. So kudos to all my team and all of our partners in law enforcement. So this time we'll take your questions if we can answer them.
Any word on a possible motive?
Not at this point. Chris?
Can you spell the suspect's name for us, please?
All right.
It's Jasan.
Jasan?
Yes. Middle name, Delante, Delanta. Last name, Martin, Martin.
Jasan, Delanta.
That's correct.
Thank you. And just a quick follow-up. I wanted to be clear. Where was Mr. Jawad hit again? What was the... He was hit in the leg, but did it...
Right leg, grazed the right leg, and actually the bullet is what we're being told hit his left leg, but didn't penetrate. Yes.
Can you say whether or not the victim and suspect knew each other?
You know, that's still part of our investigation. We do know that Mr. Jawad had made some comments to the media, reference somebody close to him. He provided us with information of what he thinks, and our detectives are following up on that part of the investigation. Yes, sir, in the back.
How many search warrants total did you execute?
What did I say? 20. 23.
23 different
Yep.
search warrants?
Yep.
Okay.
Chris?
Sure. You were talking about being in East Point and then arresting the person in Warren. Can you just go through that real quick in terms of, was the suspect in East Point originally and you picked him up in Warren, or this one?
So originally we had this vehicle and we had the stolen plate on it, right?
Yeah.
So we were able to confirm finding two vehicles that were similar in nature and had the three characteristics. The first time we saw it, it had a stolen plate on. The second time we saw it, it had the right plate on it, which came back to a home in East Point. So we executed a search warrant and brought an individual in for questioning.
And that person was released?
That person was released.
Okay. Yep. And was that the owner of the vehicle?
That was the owner of the vehicle. So.
Okay. And no connection, as far as you know at this time?
They're relatives. We'll say they're relatives.
The owner of the vehicle and the suspect?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
That's.
Yes, sir. Just to double check, you were able to identify it, right? Brake dust on the wheel well, smudges on the vehicle, and bird fluid.
Yes.
Okay, just want to make
Yep.
sure that was pretty nice.
Yep. Knowing we had the same two vehicles.
Right.
Yep.
Two questions. One is the person we first brought in for questioning, is he or that person still under investigation?
It's part of our investigation, but we, at this point, don't believe he was involved in it.
Second question, because I was there at the crime scene and I saw a lot of technology being deployed. Is there anything that you guys used that was state of the art?
Everything we used was state of the art, but to tell you everything that we used would give away our investigative techniques. So,
is there anything that
no.
special using them?
Not that we want to release. It helps us do our job.
Sure. I know there was some discussion about Mr. Jawad. He's a local businessman, gas station owner. There was some reference about him speaking out against a Sheets at Macomb Township meeting a few months back. Do you think that that is tied in with any way, or is that completely unrelated to?
We believe it's completely unrelated. I know some individuals that work with sheets, and I believe, and I don't know if it's any one of you, but media outlets were calling out to Sheets in Pennsylvania wanting a comment, and you know, it's kind of a bad thing to throw at a corporation to say.
But not related to this.
Not related to this.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing none, we thank you for your time.
And the arraignment's at 1 o'clock today.
1 o'clock, 41A.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Okay.
An update there from Macomb County Sheriff Tony Wickersham on how they were able to track down the suspect involved in a shooting on October 14th. I'll just kind of run through what we found out here. Kind of an interesting timeline, starting with the suspect vehicle arriving to the adjacent home. So the suspect's home, Eddie Jawad's home, is right off of 24 Mile Road. There is a neighborhood and homes directly to the west of that home, I should say the east actually, of his home. So the suspect allegedly got there at 8:22, then waited almost an hour, and then climbed a wall from the backyard of one home into Eddie Jawad's property, and then kind of hid there in between two vehicles waiting for about 45 minutes. That's when the victim, Eddie Jawad, left his garage at 10:18 in the morning, and that's when the suspect came out, which you saw in that video. Maybe we can show it here again, as the suspect comes out from those vehicles and starts firing shots at Jawad, who was in his SUV, just trying to leave his home and his property. There were 7 shots fired from a 9mm handgun, one of which actually hit the victim, kind of grazed his right leg. The way that the investigators were able to track down the suspect here is using a multitude of traffic cameras to trace that vehicle back from the shooting all the way to where it was parked. So what you're looking at right now is the actual arrest of the suspect in Warren from a video camera across the street. And again, that suspect is a 32-year-old. His name is Jason Martin. Now you're looking at Eddie Jawad in his SUV speeding away from the shooter. You can see right here, watch towards those vehicles. The suspect pops out of the vehicles where he was waiting and starts shooting at Jawad in his vehicle. That, according to the prosecutor, is Jason Martin. That's what the prosecutor says, and the sheriff, as the suspect continues to run after the vehicle driven by Eddie Jawad. Now, vehicle traffic cameras are what led them to this other vehicle. So this is kind of a convoluted story. Stay with me here. The vehicle that the suspect drove was a Ford Escape with a stolen plate on it. Allegedly, according to the sheriff and the prosecutor, the suspect then left that shooting scene, went back to the person that he borrowed the car from, took the stolen plate off and put the proper plate back on it. But because of, and I'm not making this up, brake dust, smudges, and bird feces, they were able to say that this 100% is the vehicle that was involved, despite the plates being swapped out. So they tracked the vehicle, realized that the owner of the vehicle, they brought him in for questioning, said it wasn't him. He loaned out his SUV. So then he's a relative of the suspected shooter. The suspected shooter now is someone they know exactly who they're looking for, and it takes them 2 days to track that person because, according to the sheriff, that suspect, Jason Martin, allegedly turning his phone on and off all day long to avoid detection. They finally were able to catch up to him in the city of Warren. He has now been arrested, facing 6 counts. One of them, of course, is assault with the intent to murder, and that carries a life sentence if convicted. A whole lot of information there coming from the Macomb County Sheriff. We're going to take a short break here. When we come back, we're going to reset and bring you that story that we started with here about the Detroit mayor's race being much closer than some people thought. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Before that press conference started, we began telling you about new polling that suggests there may be very little suspense in the Detroit mayoral race. Jason Colthorpe breaks down where the matchup between Solomon Kinloch Jr. and Mary Sheffield stands.
The numbers in this new WDIV Detroit News poll are stark in the Detroit mayor's race. Mary Sheffield and Solomon Kinloch are going in opposite directions, with her favorable ratings going up and his going down since the primary. Overall, it's a mammoth 65-14 lead for Sheffield, but a closer look at the absentee voters shows an even better picture for the city council president.
The number that really stood out to me, that really told the tale, was about a third of voters have already cast their ballots through absentee ballots. And amongst those voters, Sheffield is winning 73-18. That's an enormous lead, enormous bank of votes that she already has.
If there is anything for Solomon Kinloch to hang his hat on, Glengarriff Group pollster Richard Juba can't find it.
I couldn't find a ray of light in these numbers for Solomon Kinloch. It almost feels like he won the primary and has not added or built to his coalition at all since the primary.
And that has not gone unnoticed by insiders.
When you win 51% of the vote, you don't really have to go anywhere, right? Like your opponent has the stretch.
I would, if I was Solomon Kinloch, I would have been on every station. I would have just been, my talking points.
Don't go to sleep, just roll through the whole night.
Exactly.
What's going on?
Well, if you're looking for some bookends for the Duggan years, how about this? In 2012, when he started, 66% of the voters we polled said the city was on the wrong track. This poll says 76% of people believe the city is on the right track. Make sure to watch Flashpoint on Sunday morning. Solomon Kinloch Jr. will be joining Jason Colthorpe to discuss the issues, his plans, and this new poll. Well, many kids want more screen time, but some millennial parents are pushing in the opposite direction. Back to the old, go outside, hit the playground, back to the childhood, they say. We're going to talk with the Michigan author who says it's being driven by more than just nostalgia.
From downtown Detroit, Local 4 Live starts right now.
Welcome back to Local 4 Live, everybody. I'm Nick Monticelli. Thank you so much for watching. Raising kids these days is much different than when we were growing up, and we're starting to see a cultural shift in parenting, especially among millennials. As kids push to spend more time on their cell phones and tablets, some parents are taking things back to the 90s, pushing for more outdoor time and unstructured play. It's the focus of a book that is getting a lot of attention called Rewind and Play ABC, The Millennial Way. It was written by Michigan author Emma Nuckman. Emma is actually joining us live right now to talk more about this book and the parenting trend. Emma, good morning. Thank you for being with us.
Good morning.
You know, no surprise
Thanks for
here.
having me.
When you and I were growing up, we were told go outside, come back when the streetlights come on, and it seemed to work for us.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I think, Nick. We turned out okay, don't you think?
Well, depends on who you ask, I guess. Are you actually seeing trends? Are millennial parents saying, you know what, maybe the old way is the right way?
I think so. And I think that's really what sparked me writing this book is I'm, of course, a millennial parent, as you guessed. I have a 6-year-old daughter. And when I started noticing when we were in the car, she always wanted to watch an iPad or watch my phone, I had an idea and I was like, you know what? Back in my day, we didn't have any of this. So I was trying to think of a creative way to really spark conversation and share some of those really great deep cuts from the 90s of how we had fun. Everything from spending our Friday nights at Blockbuster, and that feeling if your movie that you wanted to rent wasn't there, we kind of went home empty-handed, to playing with our Game Boys, sitting on inflatable furniture, and of course, ruining the family computer, downloading music on Napster. So all of these things are just nice ways to reset and share stories, spark conversation with our kids, and get them off those screens.
For me, it was LimeWire. I went through many computers. Yeah, I get it. You would go to bed hoping that one song downloaded over the course of 14 hours.
I know that feeling so well. And that's when the Gateway computer was like $3,000. So it was a big hit to the family when that thing went down.
So I'm assuming you've talked to other parents as well. Is this kind of a trend? Is this taking off? Do people realize that maybe a combination of the new and old is a good way to go?
Yeah, I think so. And of course, I mean, Nick, as you know, the 90s for us, we weren't a total tech-free time, but it was a bit slower, right? Our phones or iPads weren't a one-stop shop for everything that, we were doing as kids, playing games, all of that. So a couple of things that I've seen trends with my friends is, and especially living in the Upper Peninsula, cell phone service is not great. So we got a landline installed. And taking things back to having a kitchen phone and teaching my daughter how to memorize her friends' phone numbers, and they're all installing landlines too. So to be able to kind of witness that lost art of chatting to your friends on the kitchen phone, dialing up a phone number, just anticipating when they answer. It's something that, although that sounds kind of trivial, it's been really cool to relive and, again, introduce that to the kids of today because it is so different than what they're used to. So I'm definitely seeing more intentional thoughts of how we can really bring that back to our kids.
Yeah, my concern has always been, screen time isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's the amount of screen time, right? Technology can usually help. Sometimes it hurts, but can usually help. Have you talked to anybody who really found a good balance between utilizing technology, but then also going outside and climbing a tree?
I mean, I think so. And I think it's everything from setting limits on the screen time, and also starting with yourselves, right? I mean, I'm guilty of it. So I'm just trying to be more intentional about getting my phone, putting it down, and really dialing into the present and joining my daughter outside, getting on our bikes, getting dirty, going out in the woods. So I think that, of course, there is a balance, but it starts with the parents, really. Yeah. We have to be good leaders and show our children what this looks like, where we're really dialed into life, not on our screens and paying attention to the outdoors.
We have to climb the tree ourselves.
Yes, I know. I can't do that as well as I used to. That's something.
Don't sell yourself short. We can try it. I am curious. I know you said you have a daughter, but in the parents that you've talked to, I am having a challenge. My boys will go outside and get dirty and play all day long. It's my daughter that wants to spend more time on the screen, and maybe it's an age thing because she's a teenager and the boys aren't yet. But I'm finding that more boys want to spend more time outside, and the girls are a little more addicted to their technology.
Yeah, I think so. My daughter, since she's so young, we're not quite there yet. But I think anything that you can do to get your daughter involved, or just hanging out with friends, or doing something to just kind of get out of the house, has been making a really big difference. And in getting involved too, finding something that you can do together. This book is a great way too to kind of bridge that gap. I know your daughter's a teenager, but it really is something more for the parents too, to bring up those deep cuts of the 90s and then spark conversation about, how we would spend our time. And trust me, in the 90s, I was really glued. I was an AOL Instant Messenger, probably #1 user. I was always on that thing, but it was a little different, right?
So we've been talking a lot about outdoor space, but I think that extends beyond that. It's about having dinner together and playing a board game. Do you discuss these things in the book?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that every letter really kind of touches on those pieces. Eating as a family, or just playing outside, or even playing with yo-yos, simpler things like that, that were just kind of like, I don't know, wouldn't be great today, but they were super fun back in the day. So I think that that's been like a big piece too. And again, as I said, it really starts with the family and making sure that you can sit down for dinner, or at least try at least a few times a week to do this without any screen time, and just like chat about your day and get back to like the lost art of conversation.
Yeah.
So every letter really does hit on that. And hopefully people can start to like implement it in their lives.
It's ironic that we're discussing this now and saying the millennial way, because I remember when I was first labeled a millennial, I thought it was an insult. And I'm sure many of us did.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And it's funny now being in this position to write a book and really feel like, I'm throwing it back to like how things were back in my day. It's, the more we turn into our parents.
Back in my day, I walked uphill to school in the snow both ways.
Absolutely. And that's another thing I'm working on right now with an incredible subject matter expert, which is my own father. I'm writing ABC the Boomer Way. So this would be a great way for grandparents then to showcase, what they did for fun, how things were when they were growing up with the younger generations and grandparents.
As long as they understand how expensive raising a family is now versus when they were raising their children.
I know.
That's the biggest hurdle. Oof.
Exactly. Exactly. It's
all right,
all
Emma,
relative.
thank you so much for your time. Real quickly, where can we find the book at?
Find it anywhere. So shop local, go into your local bookshop, request it, they'll order it. You can also find it on my website, emmanuckman.com, and locally at Read My Lips Bookshop, which is right outside there, Metro Detroit. So check it out, but request it anywhere and shop small.
Sounds great. Emma, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Nick.
When we come back, we're going to head to Washington to see where things stand on that government shutdown as we enter the 4th week since it began. And we'll also take a live look at the stock market and see how things are going when we come back. Welcome back, everybody. Many politicians are expressing frustration as the federal government shutdown enters its 4th week. It is now the 2nd longest government shutdown in U.S. history. As we take a live look at the U.S. Capitol right now, Alice Barr is in Washington with more on Merkley and how federal workers are getting caught in the middle of this battle on Capitol Hill.
Hi there. We've seen protests across the country in recent days, and now on the Senate floor as one Democrat spoke for hours overnight and well into the morning against the Trump White House. Republicans pointing out that means an all-nighter for folks like Capitol Police still working without pay.
Mr. President, I've come to the Senate floor tonight.
On the Senate floor, an all-night speech on ending the government shutdown and protesting President Trump's policies from Oregon Democrat Jeff Merkley.
Now, it is our United States Constitution and our freedoms that are under attack by the president of the United States.
That as top congressional Democrats are demanding a meeting with the president to negotiate an end to the shutdown that addresses a looming spike in health care premiums for millions of Americans.
The president should meet with us. It's not me, him, or anything political. It's that the people are in crisis.
I will only meet if they let the country open. They have to let the country open.
President Trump met Tuesday with Senate Republicans united in their stance that only Democrats can end the shutdown by signing on to a short-term funding bill that's now failed 11 times.
We are going to keep voting to open up the government, and eventually the Democrats, hopefully sooner or later, are going to come around.
Lawmakers acknowledging even informal bipartisan talks have stopped.
Because there can't be another conversation that continues until we open the government.
Amid the stalemate, real pain for American families. With federal workers missing paychecks, demand is surging at food banks across the country. And now low-income SNAP food benefits are in jeopardy, with funding running out November 1st.
If those SNAP dollars get cut in half, that would mean that a local food center, food bank would have to quadruple their output just to meet that need.
A growing crisis with no end in sight. That same November 1 deadline when benefits like SNAP face losing funding, open enrollment for Obamacare kicks off. That's when Democrats expect the pressure to mount as Americans get a look at soaring premiums. Republicans maintain they'll have those discussions before subsidies expire, as long as the government's reopened. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Alice, thank you. President Donald Trump is promising an update about the war in Ukraine soon as NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, visits Washington today. The trip comes as Trump appears to be backing off plans to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin. It comes also as Ukraine is requesting Tomahawk missiles capable of striking Moscow. Also today, Rutte is speaking with members of the Senate's NATO Observer Group. Their chamber is considering a bipartisan bill to impose new sanctions on Russia. Meanwhile, at least 6 people were killed in Kyiv after an overnight Russian missile and drone attack. Ukrainian officials say the dead include a 6-month-old baby, a 12-year-old girl, and a woman. The strikes damaged energy facilities and several high-rise buildings, shaking the city with a series of explosions through the night. Kyiv was hit by at least 4 ballistic missiles. Russia has repeatedly targeted Ukraine's power grid since its full-scale invasion began in 2022. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is expected to visit Israel tomorrow. 2 Israeli officials confirmed the trip, which would mark the 3rd high-level U.S. visit to that region in just 2 weeks. President Donald Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance both traveled there earlier. U.S. envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner are also on the ground, all part of the Trump administration's push to keep the Gaza ceasefire in place and move peace talks forward. The Louvre Museum in Paris reopened today just 3 days after a bold jewelry heist shocked France. Thieves made off with historic royal jewels worth an estimated $102 million. Visitors lined up this morning as the iconic museum opened its doors for the first time since Sunday's theft. The museum's director is expected to face tough questions from French lawmakers as outrage grows over security at some of the country's most treasured cultural sites. Well, we're going to take a live look outside on this Wednesday morning. When we come back, Ashley is back tracking your forecast. You might want to keep your umbrella handy all day long. Welcome back, everybody. As Ashley's 3-year-old daughter told her today's forecast is just yucky. Hey, Ash.
Now, forewarned weather with Exact Track 4D.
Well, what you need for the rest of the day, you'll want the umbrella if you're out running any errands, and the rain boots wouldn't hurt. And just keep checking on the trash cans if it's trash day or your outdoor Halloween decorations, as the winds will be picking up, and we could have gusts around 30 miles per hour today, so another brisk one on tap. And we're trending cooler, so sweatshirts and jackets are certainly a necessity throughout the day. Afternoon highs are distinctly cooler than where we were yesterday. 52 degrees for the afternoon high, putting us below average, which would be just shy of 60. Off and on rain chances will persist even once we get past sunset. And so we'll have widespread pockets of some heavier rain going into the later part of the afternoon. But zipping through the timeline of all the data we've been tracking today, the rain started before daybreak and will persist in that off and on variety through the afternoon into the evening. It's not until about midnight or so that we start to see a lot of that push out of here, and early tomorrow morning it's mainly cloudy, but I just can't rule out an isolated rain chance because of some of the moisture that's still lasting in the area. But now let's dive into the winds, because those wind gusts will be between about 20 to 30 miles per hour, sustained winds 15 to 20, and so that could knock over especially some of the inflatable decorations out there for Halloween, so keep a close eye on that. I'm keeping a close eye on temperatures. I'll tell you why. Twofold. One, we're trending below average for a stretch, but we will be getting into more seasonal territory by Saturday. However, the second part of this is the lows. So the overnight lows will be into the 30s by the time we get to Friday and Saturday, and that's worth noting, not just because it's below average, but we've yet to experience our first freeze of the season. So that means that we'd be recording a minimum temperature of 32 degrees or less over at Metro Airport. Now, we average that first freeze around October 25th, so we're in the season for that. But the latest that we've ever recorded that temperature, November 21st, and that was only a year ago, 2024. So we'll have to see how it shapes up. But if you're heading out to the Michigan State game this weekend, not a whole lot has changed with that forecast. It's a winning forecast as far as staying dry, but it's going to be a cool one. So low 50s for tailgating, but with it being a 7:30 kickoff at East Lansing, plan for increasing cloud cover, but we will have 40s throughout a good chunk of the game. Halloween countdown, 9 days away until we're at Halloween. And so I want to give you a little sneak peek at what's ahead because we're within that 10-day window. So right now, high temperatures look to trend in the low to mid 50s across the area. Now that can fluctuate a little bit, but overall we should be pretty seasonal temperature wise. Will we stay dry? Well, here's a long range model showing that we do get some moisture that starts to pump in on Friday, but likely not dipping into southeastern Michigan until after sunset. So this might be a bit more impactful up north compared to here, but we'll continue to keep a close eye on that. And once we get into that really 48-hour window, you can really fine tune those precipitation chances. But I just like to give you a heads up because, you know, so many folks are going to be outside trick or treating. So we're in the 50s throughout almost the next 7 days. Once we get the tail end into early next week, now we're welcoming back low 60s. And beginning Friday will be a drier pattern all the way through the weekend.
All right, Ash, thank you much. A new week, new rankings, surprises in our high school football power poll. Colby Artigue is going to count down the top 10 teams to watch when we come back next. Welcome back, everybody. Another big week of high school football on the horizon, and there is a shakeup in our weekly power poll with our partners over at State Champs. Hobie Artigue has a look at this week's top 10.
Already the final week of the regular season. Time flies by when you're having fun here on Local 4 and over on State Champs. Lauren Plant joining us, and still some shakeups entering the final week of the regular season.
The heavyweights holding steady, but Grand Blanc has just kicked into our power poll party.
And Davison is a team that lost to Grand Blanc. They fell down from number 5 to number 10 this week.
That's right, so down 5. However, they may have a chance for revenge next week in the playoffs. Stay tuned.
East Kentwood coming in at number 9. Rockford at number 8. Celine, nice bounce back for them after their first loss of the year 2 Fridays ago.
That's right. They get their 4th shutout of the season, beating Temperance Bedford. Final was 51-0. They take on Lake Orion this week.
Clarkston still holding steady at number 6. 6 straight wins for the Wolves right now.
Beat Farmington 49-7. A win versus Utica Eisenhower would give them the number 1 seed in their playoff bracket. 2nd most playoff points behind Harper Woods in the MHSAA.
And a grand surge for Grand Blanc, as we alluded to, coming in at number 5, undefeated at 8-0.
That's right. They are up 6 slots into our top 5. Beat Davison 57-29. Got to shout out the senior quarterback, Jake Morrow. 375 yards, 5 TDs in the wins. He's got 3,000 passing yards this year.
Wow. Number 4, Hudsonville staying strong as well. Still 8-0. They've been averaging around 37 points a game. Put up 60+ in their most recent win.
That's right. Big win, 63-14, and they're going to finish with Granville.
Number 3, Harper Woods, as they stay undefeated as well.
Beat Ferndale 44-8. Sophomore Jeremiah McCall had a pair of sacks in the win. His stock is rising. Next game against 5-3 Mason, who's won 4 in a row.
And our top 2 remains the same. Detroit Catholic Central, a close game in the first half against Grand Ledge, but still they prevail to stay undefeated.
36-14, impressive win. The Anvil candidate O-lineman Benazuka has decommitted from Penn State, so look out there, see where he ends up. Prep Bowl showcase this week versus number 11 Detroit King at Ford Field.
Cass Tech had a very close game in the first 3 quarters against Detroit King, but still, they beat the Crusaders for the 2nd time this year, staying put at number 1 as they have been all season.
The city champs, 35-19 was the final in that one. The senior wide receiver and Ferris State commit Will Sykes, the game-clinching 99-yard touchdown. They've got Temperance Bedford on the schedule as they get set to defend their state crown.
Only 1 more week to go in the regular season, but still some exciting games coming up on Local 4 and over on State Champs.
Gotta check it out.
All right, and game of the week, 2 of them actually on Saturday. It starts at 4:30 with Allen Park Cabrini taking on Ann Arbor. Father Gabriel Richard. And then at 7:30, 2 powerhouses in Detroit. Detroit Catholic Central versus Detroit Martin Luther King. Tune in on the Local 4 Plus app on clickondetroit.com for the Local 4 Games of the Week, brought to you by State Champs Game Time Live and presented by Hungry Howie's. But that's not all. Rivalry week across the state of Michigan. The Paul Bunyan Trophy on the line once again as the Wolverines are headed to East Lansing to take on the Spartans this Saturday on Local 4. Join us for Local 4 News at 6 o'clock and then our pregame show at 6:30. Before game coverage begins at 7 o'clock. I know Kim is going to be very excited watching the game. She is a huge Spartan.
Oh, no. I certainly do love that game, though. And like I said, it doesn't matter what the record is for each team, how good they've been all year. True. Rivalry game, anything happens.
How did you spend so much time in between Jason and Rhonda?
What? Yikes. Oh, with them just being big Spartan fans? Well, you know, I had Ashley there, so she's my
And
Wolverine
you don't claim
friend.
either. You're Switzerland, aren't you?
Yeah, right. Listen.
She's just like, she's the referee. She's dressed in
there you go.
black and white.
I just love you all.
She's like, give me a good Central
Have a good game. Go Wayne State. Call it whatever you
There you
want.
go. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, Live in the D, you got coming up in an hour and 4 minutes.
Yeah,
What's
there's
coming
something
up?
I'm really excited to talk about. Something
Is it
that
food?
no,
No, not today.
impacting relationships that is kind of outside the box, because usually you think couples are fighting about money.
Mhm.
This is something different.
Let me ask you this. Is your relationship messy? Don't answer that. No.
Like a relationship or the house?
The house. Yeah, exactly. But sometimes a messy house can actually trickle into what's going on in the relationship.
I believe that.
Do you?
Okay. Okay.
So we're going to get into this conversation on Live in the D because, okay, we now have 2 children to do laundry for.
Ooh.
And that newborn laundry, as you know, like that's like double.
Yeah.
So
What a great
Are
conversation.
you doing a load of laundry every day?
110%.
At least.
And I had to get on Kevin and tell him, like, it's time for you to step up a little bit more.
Listen, Kevin's doing enough as it is. Right?
Okay.
Kevin is working very
I guess you
hard.
could say it's messy in our relationship.
I mean, and the one thing though, and we'll get into this more in the show, but isn't that part of everyday life?
It's
Everything
reality.
It is, but I'll tell you what, it
all
can
the
start
time.
trickle then into how you parent as well.
Yes.
Are you organized? Do you have things ready to go? Are the kids all over the place? Are they messy too?
Yes.
The whole thing.
Listen, as long as they're alive at the end of the day, y'all are doing a great job as far as I'm concerned.
You know what? That's what I keep
You
telling
okay?
myself. I'm like, yes.
Are they
another
alive?
day.
Are they okay?
They're alive. I don't know if they're okay. It's a whole different
They're alive. We
conversation.
want to make sure that they thrive.
Right.
But yes, I mean, we're going to get really into this conversation. It's interesting. And it's
Obviously.
just like a fun thing to talk about
Throwing it on.
kind of reflect a little bit.
Yeah. Especially someone who's a neat freak. It's a thing.
You are. I've seen your desk.
Just saying.
Perfect.
Join us at 11.
Make it a great Wednesday, everybody.
Today on Live in the D, clutter is making you less attractive and ruining relationships.
Talk about dirty laundry. A messy relationship could be quietly killing romance.
The one habit most likely to send your relationship into the danger zone.
Plus, more and more everyday people are turning into endurance athletes, running marathons, even competing in other fitness events.
See what's driving the shift from casual workouts to competition-driven training. It's all coming up today on Live in the D at 11 a.m.
Well, those clouds are sticking around along with the wet weather on this Wednesday, and so we will be a little seasonally cool with showers as temperatures fall into the low 50s for today, and we hold on to some gusty winds. Just like yesterday, we could see those wind gusts around 30 miles per hour. As far as the 7-day temperature trend, well, we're going in the right direction, but it's very slow and gradual. So we'll be in the low 50s through tomorrow. Rain chance possibly early. We dry things out for the remainder of the week into the weekend. Low 60s by early next week.